this is what this platform and dialogue is here to do, is to have healthy conversations and kind of vet through these different ideas. Because if you're on this side of the fence, we all have one mission. We're all trying to get to the truth in some way, form, or fashion. So it's okay that I'm wrong. I don't give a damn if it's still getting me closer to, and that's how we need to look at it. But my point in saying all of that is to say, we also have to remember one of, of course, I know Orwell talked about this, but many other philosophers have talked about this too. It's like, hey, part of this game in the Matrix that they like to play with us is to have confusion and not really being sure of what you may feel or believe yourself, because there's just so much to it, right? I mean, look at how many directions we have gone since 2020 on just trying to understand why and how and but. And for the really religious people, they'll come back and they'll say, hey, you don't have to have all of that. Just trust in it, leave it to him and trust in it. Listen, that's I respect that to an extent, but my point is that no, we do need to ask questions and talk about things as a community, and that's okay and that's healthy. And I'm sure, since everybody want to have different gods and their God is right, well, my God told me that it's okay to do that. So how about that? But my point is, G, is that do you see though, like, someone on one side is so sure of himself, someone on the other side is so sure of himself. I did a tweet today on my sports account, now my Third Eye account, and I don't usually bring this stuff over here into that side of things. I have a reason for why I don't do that. But today, I really couldn't help but say, hey, this issue is not because somebody said something about how dare you try to politicize this. See, that's your problem right there. Nobody's politicizing anything, because we're asking a healthy, fair question about what is going on that young, healthy adults, not just here in this country, around the world, because this is happening to soccer players and many other people,
college
where they are just
players.
Yeah, where they're just
football
they're
field.
just. And I think my main question to everyone here is, if this was not a phenomenon, the issue would lead back to something different. There would be a different prognosis each time. Every single one of these situations all come back to cardiac situations. We have to seriously, and this is kind of how I was thinking and looking at it in 2020, G. When I first was like, oh, there's no way everyone's going to fall for this. And then I realized they did. So here we are again 2 years later, 3 years later now, excuse me. I mean, good Lord, the upside down has had us all. I don't even know what year it is. So here we are now 3 years later. And now my thing is like, wait. Does nobody see what seems to be similar in all of these things? I mean, there's a lot of differences and nuances in everything, of course, but there's one thing that is similar in all of these cases: heart attack, heart issues, cardiac arrests, cardiac issues,
myocarditis.
Myocarditis.
I never even heard of that until this.
Is nobody? We're talking about young, healthy, and I know, and G, I'm telling you, just let me get one.
Yeah, go ahead.
One thing off, and I'm done with that. With this segment, not with this segment, but with what I'm saying.
Your passion is kind of
watch what comes next after this. I'm predicting it right here. Now, because you know they got an answer for everything. So now people are going to start wondering, and they're going to start looking at the data, because they read all the data. They see what everyone's talking about on the social media. They know what people are starting to. And as soon as we start to get close, you know what happened? We're going to move the goalposts a little bit. What's coming now is, people are asking too many questions about this cardiac stuff. We got to have an answer for what's happening with hearts all of a sudden. Because for some reason, 2 years ago, when all the conspiracy folks were talking about and pointing toward cardiac things coming from a lot of this stuff. It was happening then too, but the long-term prognosis of a lot of this stuff happening with weakening in the heart valves, cardiac issues, this, that, and the third. So now that this is now a conversation, you know what's happening. You know what's coming next. No, we have to divert from that. There has to be an answer for that. There has to be an answer for what that is. And it's probably going to come back to airborneness. COVID actually is settling in people, and this is a thing that's happening for it's so clear that they're about to have an answer for this, and that answer is going to lead back to what allows one side to say, see, I told you, see, it's that. And the other side's going to be like, no, see. And this is how the cycle continues into the next election.
I'm not listening.
Into the next shooting, into the next world stage event. And there are so many of us who still just don't see the script. You know?
I get what you're saying, but I also want to caution that just that can be divisive. Just that they don't,
of course,
but it's like we have to I feel like we do need to hold compassion for like the people that are just totally lost at this point.
Of course. But that's that. But and I want to preference this by saying prayers to the young man, and as I said on my Twitter, to the many others that are dealing with things. Yeah, Hamlin. Excuse me. What's the young man's first name? I don't want to. I'm doing this off my phone right now. I don't have my computer pulled up. I mean, no disrespect at all. I've heard the name all day too, but
I haven't watched the NFL nearly as much this year after our.
No, I know. Oh, I know you haven't. I know you haven't. I know you haven't. And I am, and I've admitted to it. I've said it's a vice that I will admit to. And I am openly,
even though I don't even watch the games, I've been betting more because I feel like, this NFL needs this team to win this game. I'm gonna go ahead. Like I took the Packers against the Dolphins the other week.
Oh, and the Packers against the Vikings was so easy to call. I can't even give LT credit for that. He throwing it up in my face, and I could have called that based off of geometry alone. See, and here's the other thing. This is what's so funny about this stuff too. Because every time something happens, the first thing I want to do is go look at geometry and news, because no matter how far I go, in these different directions, it always brings me back to their numerology system and geometry. And it's because it's clear as day that it's still heavily used.
I'm still a little skeptical on that, but I was actually thinking about what you're talking about a little bit earlier today. And I feel like the more you see all of the coincidences, the more it becomes like, okay, there's at least something to this, even if not every single one is truly planned and all that. No,
the main picture that is circling the world of this event, when all the players were kneeling around and taking a knee and praying for the young man, there was one player that was standing up. There was one.
Too.
I'm just saying.
I am skeptical about that. I'm skeptical about both sides. I'm skeptical.
Of course.
And also, sometimes the conspiracy stuff, the gematria, this is the balance.
But how can you answer, as we always say? How can you answer? How can you answer some of these coincidences?
You're right. It does seem to be like there's a lot, but at the same time, when you look at that situation as an isolated event, it could have just been that happened to be the one guy that was standing. I mean,
yeah, like I like to say to that stuff. It's a hell of a like I always say to that stuff. Well, it's a hell of a coincidence.
You're right, but.
And that's only one. Obviously, there was about 37 of them, but I'm only pointing one because I think that was just two. Sometimes it's, you know how they operate in plain sight. So I'd like to pick out the in plain sight things, but there there are plenty that aren't in plain sight that are still like, just coincidental. I'm not taking away from anything that happened to the young man at all. It's not about that, but we have to stop acting as if other conversations cannot be had about things. That's
I agree with that. I agree with that.
That's
No, I'm
it.
here to listen. I'm here to listen. I am skeptical of
Mm-hmm.
the gematria stuff. I think that's a little heavy into the it's all fit. So, all right, so here's my thing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just let me just like entertain you or go along with the every single thing in this matrix is fixed and we're I mean that makes us a part of it if that's the case, first of all.
Well, yeah.
And second of all, even Don Miguel, the very I don't want to say I don't want to be wrong, but if I think it's the very last sentence of his most popular book, The Four Agreements, and I don't want to say this is the exact quote, but the gist of it is, we may not be able to control the destiny of humanity, but we do have a choice, and that is to enjoy our destiny or to resist it. And so, okay, let's say this is all a coded matrix. I think that's he doesn't say any more than that. He leaves it at that. But
Mm-hmm.
I think to expand on that, once you make the choice to enjoy the ride rather than to resist the ride or to try to take control for yourself in an egotistical way or a arrogant type of way,
Mm-hmm.
thinking that you actually have the power to control destiny of humanity or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and letting that go and just enjoying the ride and showing love to all of humanity, even the ones who disagree with you the most. uh, I feel that that choice changes the destiny. Like, even though you've let go of actually trying to change the destiny, that alone actually does change it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But that's the mystery, is because you have to let go in order for in order for you to align with the flow of life itself and to be able to genuinely enjoy it. First, you make the choice to enjoy it, but once you're like, have made that choice and you're locked into that choice, and even when you feel down, you come back to, okay, even if I have no control over the physical world and the external events that happen in my life, I can control my reaction to it. I'm not always the actor. I can't always control the action, but this matrix is set up in an action reaction chain.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what, no matter how little control I have over the actions that happen to me, I do
Mm-hmm.
have control over my reaction. And that reaction is going to be the action to somebody else's reaction. And it's a constant dynamic change that's taking place in this action reaction, because your reaction to one action is the action to another reaction. And so if you can control your reactions,
Cause and effect is. Are you
life,
saying that?
but you're controlling your life by letting go of trying to control the action that preceded your reaction. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, I do.
That's the
I
yin.
do.
That's the
I
yin.
do. The funny thing about that though is if we're going to sit here and have
Well, okay. The reason I bring that up is because the reason I think I'm skeptical and maybe resist like diving headfirst into all the gematria stuff and all that is because a lot of it is just so the vibes are not where I'm at. The vibes are
right.
elites have control of us and blah blah blah. Fuck all that.
Well, I don't think some people look at it that way. It's not about looking at it like the elites have control of us. It's about it's trying to understand what it is that you're
You think the
seeing. These
Matrix?
these 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 psyops. Like, why is I don't think that there's
I
anything
think that's
wrong with us with people ascending to a level in which that they can be aware of the magic tricks. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. You have to be somewhat aware of
totally agree.
the energy harvesting that is
I
going
wouldn't
on
follow
around
these
here.
accounts if I didn't totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah,
I'm
and
just,
that's what I mean. Now, there's
you're going
always
to
going
have
to
a
be
healthy
people in
dose of
these.
skepticism toward
Yeah,
the mainstream. You need to have a healthy dose of skepticism toward this stuff as well.
yes, and gee, there's always going to be people in every
You should give
lane
everybody a
that
chance.
is, huh?
You should listen to both sides, all sides.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think
Well,
more than
not
two
only
sides
just
really at this point. I think everybody's got different stances on all sorts of different issues.
right, right, right. And if well, there's one thing that I do feel that I agree with, heavily agree with, is that I think a lot of the operation does work off of that system, though. I mean, numerology, and I think it works off of that. And my thing is, there's always going to be people in these fields who are maybe a little extra about stuff, and yeah, they may consume themselves with it. You know, yeah, I remember what's our boy Chris. Even Chris said he used to be really consumed in like all of the conspiracies and blase. And used to get. I need to check on what he's been up to actually, because I know he stopped the pod. That was becoming a good pop on. I really don't know what he's doing right now. I need to look into him and see what he's up to. But
I think he's focused on like
anyway, I'm just saying.
Community.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, there's always going to be people in there who may, like with anything, drink too much. I mean, there's going to be somebody who drinks a little bit of alcohol and they're good, and there's always going to be somebody who drinks too much alcohol and they're effed up. You know, so it's like, I know what you're saying. It's not about running around thinking that just to at least control you and everything. I mean, but you do need to understand this control system, because we could sit here and say all day that we're.
I see what you're saying, and I agree. But I
Mm.
just clarify what I was saying before. It's not always even necessarily like elites are controlling us. It's not necessarily that energy that's off-putting. It's also the energy of I'm smarter than you because I understand all of this, and that energy is off-putting as well. And there's a lot of that in the gematria community.
I mean, there's that in higher education. There's that
everywhere.
in construction.
No, I get it. I get that. I understand what your point is, and
I mean, but you're damn right.
I still listen to it. I still follow these accounts. I still check it out.
Yeah,
but I'm making my.
But you're damn right about like.
I'm more about tuning into the vibe. You know, like
right.
Like Ab-Soul's new song, "Positive Vibes Only." You know what I'm saying? Like,
you're right.
There is something to gematria. I mean, shit, Ab-Soul will probably be the first one to tell you. Of course, there's something to gematria.
But even Ab said on this album he had to take a step back.
Yeah.
I know.
Align with the vibes a little bit, and people. We were not all geniuses at every point in our life, you know. Everybody.
Oh, of course not.
It's like, let's chill a little bit with the sheeple and the. I'm done with all that. Shit. I'm with Solo.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm with Solo's new album, and I like the vibe. And we don't, you know, we can be aware without always talking down to people that, you know, might not get things the way that we get them. We should talk about it in a way that makes them want to get it. You know what I mean? I think it's it's just tweaking the message a little bit. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I know. I do hear you. But that's also why you know, that's why there's you know, yes, I agree with that. I try to remember that sometimes. Sometimes, you know, sometimes it's hard, you know, but I know. You know, you see it, you hear things, you see things, and you try. And I tried, when I went silent for almost a year and I wasn't doing pods and all that. I tried. I said, you know what? I'm getting too invested in this. I'm done. Whatever. Don't care. For real.
You know,
and I tried. I am still trying. I'm trying to just focus on the things that I can control and take care of, and my businesses and projects and blase. You know, so I mean, but that's the thing. it was kind of like before 2020. I was done with all that too. I'm good. I'm chilling. Let everybody be mad about Trump, whatever. And then 2020 comes. It's these polarizing events that you get wrapped up in, because if you're even if you have a fingernail plugged into the matrix, you're going to somehow become a part of whatever the new thing to become a part of is, because it's so polarizing, or it's so,
That's why I've been keeping two mantras in my mind, because exactly what you're saying is like, one of the mantras for me is only perfection exists. And
mm-hmm.
enjoy the ride. Exactly what we were just talking about. It's like,
yeah,
there's some things maybe that we don't control, but we can always
for sure
reaction to the things that we can't control. And that's perfect enough for me. So I kind of
put my little smirk on and keep it moving.
Yeah, it,
and I just want to throw in here, the young man's name is Damar Hamlin. And I knew that. Yeah, I knew that. My bad. But and I hope he like anybody that's going through anything, I hope you make it out. And I hope and I hope I just hope that whatever, we can't control everything, but I just hope that more light is shed on exactly what's happening right now. I don't care what it is that's happening or what you think it is happening. My point is that whatever is seeming to happen, I just hope that there's some light shed on it, and I just hope that there's some peace and comfort brought with these families who are losing people. There are people in this county that I live in who are just losing young people. And I just I'm just saying, I just hope that there's some peace and comfort, brought to people at some point. Only time heals anything like that. But
I think it's going to be a while. We're still.
Oh, absolutely, G. I know. I'm just trying to find ways to not be so dark and gloomy here.
I agree with you.
That's really what I trust me. Sometimes when I'm just trying to find ways to not, like you said, not be so, like I said, I do try. I really do. I try.
I have compassion for all sides, because first of all, we're in such a chaotic time and
a confusing time for a lot of people as well. Mm-hmm.
And so, regardless of, I totally empathize with the people that are into the, the occult controls everything, and that the super conspiracy people, like, I get why you feel that way. It's a lot of fucked up shit going on out here. It's only natural to kind of come to a conclusion that there's, shadow governments and deep state, a thing. I mean, of course, a lot of this stuff is true. But we can always control our reaction, and we can always control the way that we talk about some of these things. We can talk about it in a adult way,
Mm-hmm.